Hello everyone, welcome back. This is our crisper drawer where our Northern Spy apples have been for 4 months. So tonight, it's mid-February. It's been about 4 months since we put them in there on full humidity. This is a Colville Blanc, just a random one that I had, kind of gnarly. I want to do this experiment, so I purposely saved these. They've been in the crisper drawer in our fridge. Like I said, set to full humidity, which means just completely closed, or as closed as it can be. Not completely airtight, but closer to it. The thought process there is things in the refrigerator will dry out, and so the crisper drawer basically kind of addresses that a little bit by keeping most of the air in and just letting them breathe a little, but it maintains moisture a lot better. So that's why your lettuce and vegetables and stuff are good in there. If you put them on the shelf, they're going to wilt a lot faster just because they'll sort of dehydrate. So let's see how these came out. They look really good. I mean, for 4 months in the fridge, they're a little gnarly on the outside, but the inside looks beautiful. That's a really nice looking apple. So let's take a taste and we'll see what we have. Really, really good. Still got a decent crunch. The flavor is perfect. I mean, the flavor is amazing on these. And we're going to make apple crisp out of these tonight, so we're just going to cut them up. They've been taking up our fridge for long enough. It's sort of inconvenient to have your entire crisper drawer taken, because apples take up a lot of room, Now, what you can do, and I'll zoom in there so you can see the fruit quality on these. The Northern Spies are just a fantastic apple for so many reasons. They're a late flowering apple, so last year when we got like 3 apples off a bunch of trees because of the late frost, we got 2 bushels off this one tree, this one unpruned tree. That's my new thing now. Don't tell the pruning police. But we'll make a video on that for sure. I keep promising that. But and the reason I say that is not to be annoying to the people who say you have to prune, but it's people that are just starting off with fruit trees and think that things have to be a certain way. You have to this, you have to that, or it won't work. That's really what it's about. It's not really about getting into a debate or some argument with people about pruning. But it's just, if someone thinks they have to do it, it might stop them from planting a tree, and that's what we don't want to see happen. Now, you should prune. I do prune most things. But this tree we let get really big because it's also a front yard sort of like landscape showpiece. So you always want to think, what are you trying to do with your trees? You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose? If you're going to prune, fine, but why are you doing it? And you need to understand what the reason is. So anyway, that's just fresh on my mind from a long back and forth with people about saying you must prune or you won't get fruit. So these fruit, when they have sort of some gnarly spots on them, even if you were going to eat them fresh, I would just cut that out and just eat it anyway. But since we're baking with them, just chop them out. No big deal. Throw them in the compost, so chop that. But I'm pretty happy with this, being that this is a 4-month storage in the fridge. They've retained a good amount of moisture. The flavor is fantastic in these. Northern Spies have like a nice balance of sweetness and acidity, a good crunch. Now, there are some other kinds of apples, and this is also variety dependent. If you get Arkansas Black, those are like, hard as a rock when you pick them. 4 months later, they're like a nice eating texture. And so, conversely, there are other kinds of apples, like Pitmaster pineapple. I love those, but they just don't store. Kids Orange Red, they just don't really store that well, at least for us. So there are certain kinds of apples that are keepers, as they say, and certain ones that you just want to eat quickly. And it tends to be like the ones that are ripe later in the season tend to be keepers. Early fall, late summer apples tend to be just eat fresh, make applesauce or something, but they're not going to keep. See, that one is all wrinkly because it was dehydrated, but it kind of just concentrates the flavor a little bit. The actual apple still has a decent texture, and certainly for baking. When you cook them, they're going to get soft anyway. So, yeah, overall, 4 months in the crisper. Like I mentioned, I think earlier, they sell crisper bins, like plastic containers that you can use for the fridge. And so if you have a utility fridge or something like that, we have one in the basement. We're just going to, in the future, we do this with our carrots already, but just put the apples in the crisper bins and just stack them in the fridge, and that way they won't take up our whole crisper drawer. This was just an experiment, but I would say a pretty successful one. Pretty happy with it. And Northern Spy. Like I said, you got to plant yourself a Northern Spy tree if you're a fan of apples. They're just about the perfect apple. They're not my favorite eating apple fresh. That's the thing. They're good, but there are many that are better. But in terms of cider, they make amazing cider. As you'll see in one of our upcoming videos, they make amazing pies, crisps, applesauce, you name it. They're actually an apple that's used in processing a lot commercially. So there's our Northern Spies ready to go into the crisp. You would not know those have been in the fridge in the crisper drawer for 4 months. That's just so cool. So here they are, just ready to go in the oven. So thank you for watching. Yeah, apples can absolutely be stored in the crisper drawer for 4 months successfully, especially if they're Northern Spies.